Well, hello and welcome to the DC United Kingdom podcast. This is our second attempt at Season 3 and Episode 11. If you joined us yesterday, you would have noticed we probably were on mute. Major software issues. It wasn't my fault this time for once. Daniel can actually attest to that one. It wasn't my fault. It was just, I don't know. So we're back. We're trying again. Fingers crossed you will hear us and you will see us and everything just works. I've moved away from Streamlabs, which was rather resource heavy. I'm just looking at my little computer stats on my laptop, and Streamlabs was roughly working at around 20% CPU, between 20 and 30. Normal OBS, 2%. My laptop's not working as hard anymore, so we should be good. But anyway, today's show is all about reviewing the old Chicago game, because Daniel wasn't here for the last one, even though, like I just said, he was here yesterday for it. And obviously the Orlando game as well, which you could probably tell from the show title, not Knock-knock-knockin on Orlando's door. Yes, that is from the song. We knocked on Orlando's door, we just didn't get through it. But we'll also be previewing the Philadelphia game as well. So if you've got any thoughts, questions throughout the show, please do put them in the chat. We will see them from wherever you are, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on Twitch, or whether you are tuning in on YouTube. So please get them in. But welcome back, Daniel, for the second time in 2 nights. How are you doing today?
So, James, like I said yesterday, right as rain, fit as a fiddle, and fine like wine.
Oh, yes.
And
what kind of wine would you be?
Ooh, I'd be a nice kind of earthy Syrah. That would be
Okay.
That would be my type of, yeah. No, I'm a big fan of that.
Fair.
And I have to say, I think to a degree, I think the energy I put out yesterday in making that bold prediction about the Wizards versus Indiana or Indianapolis game came to fruition, and the Wizards pulled out an amazing, just destructive victory.
Yeah.
142-115. Beal and Westbrook really coming alive in that game and bringing it to a really just awesome win, because that's a team that has always kind of threatened a little bit in getting in to the playoffs, or they've either been really awful. Sometimes it's like a late season type of loss that just kind of sours the overall season. But yeah, it was good to see them get through. So I want to say it was that prediction that I made that made your computer fry and kind of put us back in this position.
Indeed. I mean, if you were with us and if you saw me yesterday after the recording, and I saw some people putting out on the YouTube chat saying that they couldn't hear on one device, but it was working on another, this, that, and the other. And I was thinking, it's got to be YouTube's fault. It sounds like, I mean, everything was working on my end, but when it came to looking at the recording, and some reason Zoom decided to fail on me, but it looks like Zoom's recording as well. So if all else fails, we've got something to fall back on. So fingers crossed. If anything, excuse me for that little knock there, but if anything does happen, if any technical issues, please do let me know, because it is difficult to keep an eye on everything that's going on right now. But so far, so good. So it's very weird to think about what the heck we talked about yesterday and trying to repeat it, but you know what? Let's not worry about it. Let's kick it off, because it is a soccer show. We're going to kick things off with our score predictions from last week. And was it? Yeah, it would have been almost 2 weeks ago, because you missed out on the Orlando preview game that I had with Elliot Holman of MLS UK show. Thanks to him for joining me and making it a fantastic episode, as always. But in the Chicago game, you predicted a 2-0 win. I predicted a 2-1 win. But we won 1-0, thanks to Edson Flores with his first ever goal for the Black and Red. So we got 1 point in our little league. So as things stand after that game, nothing changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still. I think there's 1 point in it between me and you. You're ahead of me on 2 points, and I'm on 1 now. That was my first point.
It's going to be kind of interesting seeing as the season unfolds, if any of us get a right prediction, whether it,
a completely right prediction.
I think, last night we were kind of talking about it, to a degree, you're going to be very positive. I'm going to be very negative this season, and so it makes me wonder, like, will we be able to call 1-1 draws, or for the first time in Losada's career, a 0-0 draw?
No. That's never going to happen.
I'm curious to see, like, if we stay tight all season, if it's going to be these little 1 point, sort of switches or draws or whatever, it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. But as I've said before, if at the end of the season, as negative as I think I'm going to be, if I'm wearing that Spurs jersey by the end of the season, it'll be bittersweet, and I'll grin and bear it.
Again, like I said last night, I would love it. I will do my best Kevin Keegan. I would love it if you're wearing that Spurs jersey at the end of the season. The second game that we had the prediction for, which was the Orlando game, neither of us got it right. We were far from it because we both predicted a win and we got beat. I went with the 1-0 win, so I got the scoreline correct, but it was the wrong way around. And you went for the 2-1 win. So
too bold. I don't know. I thought I had it. Thinking that the boys would get out of the week with 6 points, but just coming out of that with 3. And honestly, they've dropped a lot of points in this early stage of the season, and it's gonna be very, very tough at a certain point. When those summer months hit, it's going to be really difficult for this team. If it's tough now, I can't imagine how it's going to be once June, July, August hit.
I think it's going to improve because we've got so many players due to come back, and that's going to happen over the next few weeks, possibly a month. We'll start picking up our pace and we'll start kicking on, I think. I think our biggest concern right now is if these injuries continue to mount up and it goes the other way around and we suddenly get back to the position where we were a few weeks ago, where we were struggling to get 5 players on the bench.
Yep.
I think that's our biggest threat right now. But our biggest opportunity is the fact that we've got these players coming back. Bill Hamid is potentially due to play again on Sunday evening. Yeah. Paul Ariola's back. Knaus is due to come back. He was on the bench. We've got Paredes coming back. Griffin Yao coming back. We've got so many options now. So things are starting to look a little bit rosier. And Anazada's been dealt a very difficult set of cards with this injury crisis. It's been a tough start for him, but the fact that he's managed to pick up 6 points, it's average of a point a game. I don't think anyone could argue too much with the way it is at start for him. So I'm happy for him. The way he's brought his style of play in these very early stages with the very limited resources he's had has been excellent. He's been given the squad. He's not been able to put his stamp on the squad yet, so we'll start seeing that this summer with him and Lucy Rushton. And it'll be interesting to see how they work together and what they're able to bring in. So fingers crossed, we'll start seeing more progress from the summer onwards. But before we start going on to things, we've got a few points of note that we need to go through. The first one, which we mentioned yesterday, but we obviously we're going to mention it again. We'll probably hear that being said through a few times this episode, so I do apologise for that. It's the parlay, blah 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 blah. The ocean shirt.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on it? Because I kind of dig it. What did you make of it?
My opinion, obviously, it hasn't changed a
You're a
whole
fashion
lot.
guru, aren't you?
I wouldn't say I'm a fashion guru. I am the type who, I don't know, it when it comes to sort of like a brand, there's got to be like some consistency. So
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of like the sort of touch of blue they've added to the jerseys this season.
Yeah.
And then obviously with this blue on blue kind of number with the parlay jersey going on, it I'm thinking more Montreal Impact or Sporting Kansas City.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the thing that bothers me, because it feels like, a Kansas City kit with a DC United logo on it. And I don't know. It's tough. I've stared at it for a long time, staring at it now, and it's still not quite growing on me.
No?
I'm to a degree, like I think, having that cherry blossom pink, like having like, a cherry blossom kit. I'm more comfortable with that, because that is more, kind of in line with the identity of DC.
Yeah.
And the black and red, that's just sort of, it's always just been the thing. So that's something that I just have a lot of trouble kind of getting past. But otherwise, like I said, I like the really abstract design of kind of like the lower part of the kit that meets with the very solid. How did you call it? What kind of blue that was? Ocean blue or something?
Caribbean blue.
Caribbean blue, yeah.
Yes.
And it's so it's nice, and it is a step up from what Adidas typically does with
the plain white
MLS
tees
jerseys. So plain white tees, not the best look. So it's definitely an upgrade from that, but not exactly to my taste.
So as I said, I am a huge fan of it. I really like it. I know it's a league-wide initiative, so everyone in the league has got this blue jersey, and it is because it is reused plastics that have been collected from the ocean. So some good is coming out of it. It's bringing up the awareness of the unbelievable amount of plastic that is just thrown into the sea. So it's good that there is stuff coming out of it, in more sense than one on that aspect. You look at some of the other teams' kits, and you look at Orlando's, and they've got a dark blue rather than this Caribbean blue, as I've now named it, with orange numbering and lettering and things like that. So it kind of looks like an NYCFC kit.
Yep.
Which I would be or New Jersey kit, whichever way they're going these days. So I'm not a huge fan of that. I would not be happy if it was more like a New Jersey City FC kit.
I would turn completely around on it if they described the blue as an Anacostia blue.
Okay.
The one of the rivers that sort of travels through DC. Then I would turn around on it. I'd be like, okay, you know what? That's good, because that's actually a really good story about how DC kind of turned around the Anacostia River. It was, back in the 80s, like a polluted mess, and DC Water put together a strong initiative that completely cleaned that up. And it was so bad that it's tough. It's been tough for DC to kind of shake that sort of belief, or there's certain people who live there or who have traveled and lived there who have been warned, like, oh, don't drink the tap water or anything like that. But it's perfectly fine. I mean, DC Water is one of the finest like operations happening in terms of municipal services. So if that was the case, if it was an Anacostia blue, well, then I'd totally turn on that.
Fair. So, DC staff, I know some of you follow me, and you might be watching now. Make that happen. Make it Anacostia Blue. Just name it that. We might get a few extra sales. But it's one of those jerseys that I do want to get picked up. So if there's anybody out there who's feeling generous and wants to help me out, and send a jersey over to me, and I will obviously pay, because, I just don't want to have to go through the flipping... all the charges that you get added on. If you could just
touched on it, that's $27. You said
so on MLSstore.com, I think it's $27 to get an item shipped over to me. And I was looking at getting the marble scarf, and that's $24.99. So it's more expensive to get an item shipped. So literally just put it into an envelope and get it shipped across than it is to actually buy the item itself. Genuinely could not believe it. And I was due to get the Unite the Districts t-shirts from Bailiwick Clothing, the limited edition one, and paid for it, done the shipping, and it was only $6. I was like, oh, don't know whether that's a mistake or not, but I'm going to go for it. It's allowing me to do it. Get an email a few days later from the guys over there saying, yeah, we can't do international shipping yet because of Brexit. Yay. Thank you, Brexit, and all those Brexiteers out there. Thank you for that. You've just stopped me from getting a nice t-shirt. So, thanks. Yeah, bless them. They're very accommodating. They were trying to figure out different ways for me to get it over, but it was more hassle than it's worth, unfortunately. So I just said, like, just don't worry about it. So there was that. But yeah, it's just crazy cost. So you kind of, when I'm looking at stuff now, I've got to think, I've got to do it in one of two ways. I've actually just had a lovely DM just saying they're looking after me. So something's been picked up from the club shop on Sunday. Oh, I love that.
Bless them.
Yes, thank you very much to that person in question. So appreciate it. That's the beauty of this podcast. It brings people together, doesn't it? And we learn so much. And we actually have been speaking offline. I say offline. We can only speak online, but off air. That's how we should describe it. About potentially doing a separate podcast to this called The Brit and the Yank, where we talk about our differences in language and dialects and anything that's weird between us. I know. Can you just, because we had a good giggle last night.
Very funny. Because typically after these recordings end, we haven't spent less than an hour afterwards just kind of chit-chatting. But it was really funny because we were talking, one, about how incredibly tall you are.
Yes.
6'10".
6'10", yeah.
I was, wondering, just sort of about the accommodations in England for very tall people. But also, in term, when I think of Europe, it's very small, compact cars or very exotic Ferraris and Maseratis and Mercedes-Benz and all that. But
you pronounced all those absolutely correctly, by the way.
You had told me that you were going to upgrade to a Kia Sportage.
Sportage, yes.
And I completely thought that you were just kind of being fancy, because I was saying that, over here in America, people who shop at Target sometimes call it Target. It's fancier than a Walmart. And so I thought you were just doing one of those things, because over here, a Kia Sportage is a Sportage.
Yeah. I mean, I get why you would think that. But over here, we call them Sportage. It's like Peugeot.
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 Yeah. No. Was there another thing that we sort of brought up? And red, yellow, green, red, amber. Green,
oh yes, the traffic light system.
Yes.
There's that. There's so many different things that we've got over here that you guys don't have, and vice versa. And it's just.
There will be times this season where you will probably say something that will confuse me.
Oh yeah,
and we'll have all sorts of tangents, as we kind of get into that. So that's something we're kind of thinking about, and we'd love to know what people would think of something a little more general, off the soccer and DC United path.
Just everyday stuff, Why not? So if you want to see something like that, hit us up in the comments, or feel free to drop us a line over on Twitter or Instagram. Let us know if you guys want to hear something like that. Then we'll we'll happily do it. Let's move on back to soccer. From that little tangent we had there was a tweet that came out from Paul Tenorio, who mentioned about Chris Durkin, one of our former homegrowns. He's been rumoured to go and sign for an Italian team, Spezia. I hope I pronounced that one right. I probably haven't.
It's the sound with two Z's, and it is just a straight Z with
Spezia.
one Z.
So
yes.
That's fine. And the reason why that's obviously been tweeted out is obviously, one, because he's a former player, but two, there is a sell-on clause that we negotiated with Santruden when we sold him to there, and that was a 25% sell-on fee. So whatever Santruden sell him for, we'll get a quarter of that our way, which is a hefty amount, because if they sell him for, well, even just $1 million,
yeah,
that's 250 grand that we've got in our back pocket for not doing nothing. So we're in a win-win situation, but it'll be good to see him making a little bit of a progress from the Belgian league over to Italian league, and I think he could do all right over there. I think the way the Italians play, it'll really suit his style of play.
For sure.
So there was that one. What else we had on there? So one of the big things for this weekend, if you are heading over to Audi Field, if you've had both your vaccinations, so you had the 2 jabs, if you're having a 2-shot jab, or if you've had the 1-shot jab, if it's been 2 weeks or more since you had your last one, and you're fully vaccinated, you can go in and not wear a mask. But let's be honest, there will be people who are attending who haven't been fully vaccinated just yet. So just be mindful of that. Don't think because you're fully vaccinated doesn't mean that you can't give it to someone else. You still can. It just means that you wouldn't get it as severe as you would do if you didn't have the vaccination. So just be mindful. I would still suggest wearing a mask. You don't obviously have to. You don't have to listen to me. I know diddly squat. I haven't had my first jab yet. That's coming on Tuesday. Finally. So yeah,
in short, don't share pupusas.
Don't share pupusas with the green sauce like John from RFK does.
Have your own pupusa. They're delicious. Yeah. I couldn't share a pupusa. I'd have 2 at a time.
I've not had one yet.
Oh, they are.
I've yet to taste the delicacy that is a pupusa. So that's on the list to have when I next come over. So, which I mentioned last night, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's mention that now. So the company that I work for, we had quite a good quarter, the first quarter of this year, and so much so that they gave us all a nice tidy bonus. Now, what that bonus has done, and I've actually seen my pay slip today, so I can know how much I'm put to one side, is that bonus is going towards us coming over back to DC. So there is that money set to one side for the DC fund, which should be enough money to get us out there and stuff. So fingers crossed, as soon as we've been given the green light in our red, amber, green system, we can come over and we can spend some time over in DC. But until the government gives us that green light, because they keep changing their mind on what they will allow us and not allow us to do, because so it's amazing how much changes in the space of 24 hours since doing it last night. So government have come out and said, if you can go to an amber country, we don't advise you to. It's not against the law, but if you do, we're going to be knocking on your door.
Yeah.
It's like
ominous.
We can go, but don't go. But if you do go, we'll come and see if you've still quarantined, but we can't tell if you've been quarantined the whole time because we're only going to be there for that moment in time. Yeah, that's UK government for you, folks. As clear as mud. Yeah.
So,
politics, I hate it.
That's one of those things. Like, I'm very excited for that, and that's one of those things. I will. Once you let me know, I will absolutely book my trip for whatever weekend that would be. Would love to have, even if it's just a short thing. Like if we get on, even if it's just through a phone or something, we share some thoughts before, during, and after the game, something like that.
Honestly,
I
can't
think
wait.
that would be a fantastic thing because, yeah, me, I spent 10 years living in DC, and
Yes.
I recently moved to South Dakota, so I would love to get back there, see some of the old people, meet some of the fantastic, DC United Kingdom supporter group people who I've only been sort of virtually interacting with.
Yeah.
But that would be just so good to have just a great meet and greet, especially if it's one of those things where DC gets fully opened up again, to have a night somewhere in Adams Morgan or DuPont or wherever. I would absolutely love having that.
It's going to be insane. I just genuinely can't wait for it to happen. I'm just eager for the government just to go change. They reckon there's going to be a lot more countries coming onto the green light fairly soon. So I just, please, you guys over there, just get your flipping jabs. I can't stress it enough. If you've not got it, go and get it. I mean, I would swear, but this is live, not pre-recorded, so I can't add a beeping. I haven't got one of those fancy podcasting machines that I can just go press a button and it'll do a beep for me. But yeah, it's definitely very much on the cards. Hopefully it'll be this year. Again, it's all dependent on what the government say, but if it isn't this year, it's going to be as soon as I can. So fingers crossed it does happen. But yeah, it's on the cards. It's certainly been discussed between me and my wife. We've agreed on it. And yeah, that money is one side. It's not going to get touched until the green light goes and I get those plane tickets booked. So yeah, so there's that.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, we have a couple items for housekeeping, but I think we'll jump back right into talking about the Orlando game.
Well, should we do the Chicago game first?
Oh, we haven't even really covered the.
No, we haven't yet.
That was.
I mean, I didn't get to cover it on the last episode because I was Elliot, who's a Orlando fan, so we just talked about that. So I'll go through some stats on the Chicago game.
Yes.
If just to remind us all about what happened in that. So we won 1-0, like I said before at the very start of the show. Possession-wise, we were outpossessed by 42% of 58, which is quite unusual for us. Then there was shot-wise, it was 12-15 in Chicago's favour, which doesn't really surprise me, seeing as they were on the losing end for most of the game. Obviously, they're going to try and get that goal. But we did have 4 shots on target to their 3, so we had a bit more accuracy on ours. Fouls-wise, 35 fouls in total, 19-16. There was a little stat that I saw earlier on today about the fouls as well. I will just touch on it now. We have committed the most fouls in the league, but we've also had the most fouls committed against us in the league.
And that's really a testament to the system that Losada has put in.
Yeah.
This is no longer Benny Ball of sitting back, grinding out the game. This is very much attack focused. Yeah. It is a pragmatic sort of approach, and really, with the way that Losada has shifted the philosophy with this team, and maybe this team has always had this sort of eagerness to get out there, but he has really changed the way we play soccer. That is one of those things, I think there's always complaints about referee calls and whatnot, but I think especially this year it's going to be especially heavy with all of that. This is one of those seasons that we're gonna run into some bookings. We're gonna lose some players that way for red cards and whatnot. But that's something we'll have to kind of deal with as it comes.
Yeah, it's certainly been an interesting season so far, to say the least. And then we had some yellow cards in that game. We had 5 in total.
Yes.
2 yellow cards for us, 3 yellow cards for Chicago. And then my favourite stat of them all, which is the expected goals, which was 1.2 for us and 1.62 Chicago. So realistically, it should have been a 1-1 draw, but we're not going to argue over 3 points. No. We're going to take that. The passing network that I also like to have a look at, which kind of shows you where each player was passing on an average position on the pitch,
Yep.
which was quite interesting. So you had Briant and Alfaro sitting at the very back, which is kind of consistent with how the season's gone. Heinz Zijk pushing up a little bit. You had Nahar up quite high on the left-hand side. Moreno's kind of the deepest midfielder, which again is consistent with how the system's been played. Then you had Gressel pushing up very high, which again, it's always been the case. Perez sat up the highest, with Flores just alongside him. And then number 12, who's on number 12?
That is Drew
Skundrich, who has played in the last two games.
Is it a ch or a k on that one? Skundrich.
I would say Skundrich for me.
Okay.
He's been, for someone who's just come from USL,
yes,
at the very last moment as an emergency backup signing, he's been very impressive. I like the positions he's been getting into.
He doesn't get a ton of touches for kind of the middle position that he's in, but he has really solid passing accuracy. So he's made about 75% of his passes, and 25% tackles won. So he's a guy who gets in there, and really he's somewhat, I don't know, he's somewhat quiet, but he's definitely a presence. I don't think. And this is the thing, like there's a lot of players who came in knowing that they would have backup or reserve roles this season. But, they've had to really step up. And it's really good seeing the players, especially Adrian Perez, these players who are coming in and making really good direct impacts on games is good to see. And so I always wonder if it's the players that make the system or the system that makes the players. And I don't know, I'd be curious to kind of know sort of that training ground atmosphere, or what's being shown with a lot of these players. It's just really interesting, and hats off to the new one, especially and Alfaro as well, who came in, basically was signed, and then within that week had to start at center back. So
I think it was in 24 hours he was starting at center back.
That's wild.
I think he signed on the day that the roster had to be submitted, and then the following day we had a game, and it's just like, and he's just come in, he's done very, very well, scored a goal. You can't really ask for much more than that.
No.
Maybe he's put maybe a foot or two wrong in the 6 games that he's played for us, but to be fair to him,
Jonathan Kempen as well coming in, replacing Sites, and really, aside from the Orlando game, and he still made some really good save. He's a very solid keeper. He has been really impressive in these 2 games that we've seen him. So very, very excited, very eager for Hamid to come back. But this team is doing a lot with so little. So really it's very it's interesting seeing that.
Definitely. Excuse the shouting out there. That's probably drunk people. It is a Friday night after all in England, so people have been down the pub. We're allowed inside pubs again for the first. This is the first week we've been allowed to do it. It's been nice. I went to the pub.
Speaking of a weird Americanism and a Britishism,
go on.
Is when I visited England, one of my favorite things was being able to go to a pub.
Yeah.
And, it gets very hot inside buildings, and sometimes you want to have that little either a breath of fresh air, or you take that smoke break, whatever you do. But I love the fact that you can take a beer bottle or a drink outside and just hang out with it. In the United States, you can absolutely not do that. It is
really.
Oh yeah, you will get thrown. You will get thrown in the clink before you know it if you take anything, because we have open carry laws or open container laws here, where you cannot have an open container outside of, unless you are on your personal property. Yeah. Oh, welcome
But
to puritanical United States.
but I went to a dive bar in New York, and
Oh,
we got. I mean, granted, it was a plastic.
hmm
It was a plastic one, but we got a pint of. Unfortunately, it was Coors Light, but
yeah,
you get what you get given.
true.
And we went to the park with it. And there was
Uh,
not. I mean, there was so many people doing this. So I don't know whether it's different in New York
it might
State,
be one of
maybe.
those things, but for roundly wherever I've gone,
Yeah,
especially, I mean, even in DC, there was one time I absentmindedly took a drink outside, and a bouncer was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, so I had to, and you might have
yeah,
just been with a group where they kind of knew where to go to
yeah,
stay out of
probably.
prying eyes. But that's
Yeah,
the other weird thing is you have state by state legislation where
yeah,
it's not consistent anywhere.
yeah,
You have certain federal laws that are kind of the rule of the land, but you've got states that can kind of adjust things so that it's completely different from that, or have their own sort of things, and it's frustrating
yeah. You'd like to
following
have a
all
bit of
that here.
consistency, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. More politics. I think this is slowly turning into a politics show
Oh
at this rate.
no.
No, let's not do that.
We will
No.
keep it soccer.
Yeah.
For sure.
Just quickly on a couple of things around that Chicago game. Like I said earlier on, Flores got his first goal for the club. Perez with a lovely assist on that one, getting towards the byline, dinking it back across, and Flores with a header. For you, how good was it to see Flores getting off the mark, and after the fact that I called it on the previous episode?
Yeah. I think he's the type of player who's more used to being in that assist column,
Yeah,
and sort of being in that talismanic role. It's tough. It's an adjustment. It is a different set of expectations and reads to make. But I think with Perez there, he's shown so much creativity and flair in
yeah,
that attacking third that he really complements that side. So I think it's come down to a point where teams can't quite, overload one side over another. And we'll
yeah,
kind of get into that with the Orlando game, but the teams who are organized and disciplined are going to have, or maybe easier, but or they will be better suited against us than a team that has a weaker side than the other. So it'll be interesting to see how things unfold through the season with the sort of midfield prowess that we have on the wings.
yes, definitely. Don't forget, if you've got any thoughts or comments or questions about the games that we've just had over the last couple, or you've got any questions for us about the upcoming game against Philadelphia Union, do drop them in the chat, and we'll get your thoughts and comments said online. On air, or if you've got any questions, we'll answer them straight away as well. Let's have a little look at the Orlando game then. Yeah. So just to just run through some stats for you and for you guys out there, just to joggle your memories. DC, unfortunately, we got beat 1-0. Possession wise, 55 in our favour to 45 of Orlando. 13 attempts to their 6, which they did not even have one attempt at goal in the second half. So that kind of shows you their tactics and the way they played in that game, which was Betty Ball. There was only one attempt on target for either side, so not very good in that aspect, but we did have 5 of our attempts blocked, so unknown as to whether they would have hit the target or not. Fouls, very similar, for the exact same amount of fouls in Chicago game as this one. It was 35 in total, so we had 20 fouls committed, and we had 15 fouls committed against us. Orlando picked up 4 yellow cards to our 2, and the XG was a bit lower for this game. It was 0.7 for us and 0.4 for Orlando. Now, I've just seen on Twitter, as we've just been live recording, around Nanny. So late in the game, you might have seen it on instant replay on MLS Soccer's YouTube channel. Nanny decided to touch the referee in a slightly shoving manner. Now that's been picked up by the league, and there's very strong rumours that he's going to get a two-game ban for it.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh, that is
that's beautiful. That's what's required.
Yes.
You don't see that here, other than this on this side of the pond.
Yeah.
Something like that happens, and it's not in the match report by the referee. Nothing gets done about it. The only times I think it ever gets done is if it's a simulation where the player has won a penalty and deceived the referee. That's when there's retrospective action. But good on MLS for having a look at it, seeing it, and hopefully banning Nanny for giving the referee a shove when he shouldn't do. No player is bigger than the ref should be the biggest person on the pitch.
Yeah,
they're the ones who are in control of the game. But saying that, the referee didn't have the best of games. There was a couple of decisions which probably questionable. I know we mentioned it last night about the Paredes incident.
Incidents, really, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, both ends of the pitch, to be honest, because he body checked Nanny, which was absolutely brilliant. If you missed that, please do go and watch the highlights because it's on there.
Yeah.
And I think it was on that instant replay thing as well. It was just an absolute beautiful moment because Paredes came on late in the second half, and Nanny's heading into the box. You know what he's like, he bounces around, and then there goes Kevin, just steps over into him, back to him, and just knocks him to the ground. Kevin, he's like tiny. He probably weighs about 70 kilos.
18 years old.
Yeah.
On a 34-year-old.
Yeah.
He gave the boom to the boomer.
It's just, honestly, Kevin was fantastic. Yeah. I think he'd done him twice in that game or something like that. And it's just, you think...
It was great to see him in. I think he's, for now, a great super sub type of role. Yeah. He's a spark plug player who has a lot of dynamism, moving the ball forward, and especially not afraid to get into the box. And that was part of what we were alluding to earlier with the questionable no call. Couple of times, so the big thing was him kind of getting on the side of the box, and he had two players on him, and he wanted to kind of chuck it for a real sharp cross into the center, but it was blocked by one of the players, and I want to say it was Carlos who got in the way of that. And fair play to him.
It was tucked in.
It was tucked in, but you kind of wondered if he gave that a little bit of a chicken wing. It's one of those things like, can you call it like the slightest movement of an arm, especially when he's sort of like jumping to kind of brace for that ball coming in. It's that Rorschach test where we're going to see that as absolutely a chicken wing. But, kind of going a couple seconds before that, Paredes was being marked and had a nice little turnaround going on. And the defender actually clipped his shoe.
Yes.
And instead of going down, he did stay up. So fair play to him, playing hard and playing to finish. But that's one of those things where you got to instinctually, if you've been clipped, you go down. I mean, fans are going to say what they say about it, but I mean, that's the game right there. And especially if you are in that, 1-0 sort of trailing position, you need every sort of advantage you can get. And because that's the thing, is soccer is that mental game, and that's something that comes with experience. And I think at a certain point he'll sort of understand the times when to play on and the times to take it.
He's a young lad. It's his second season in MLS, so he's got plenty of time to learn the tricks of the trade. So you might have seen me pull a little bit of an expression as you were talking there, because I just went So I just mentioned about Nanny and there were strong rumours.
Mm-hmm.
It's now official. Goff's just tweeted out. So MLS's disciplinary committee has issued a 2-game suspension and issued a fine for an undisclosed amount to Orlando City SC midfielder Nanny for unwanted physical contact with a match official in the 90-plus minutes of Orlando's match against DC United on May 16th.
Fantastic.
The play, just to kind of go on as what their statement has come out with, so the play was reviewed under MLS Disciplinary Committee parameter number 3. I don't know what number 1 and number 2 are, but there you go. Where the match officials see an incident and do not issue a red card. Under parameter number 3, the MLS Disciplinary Committee shall issue either a 1-match suspension on incidents in which Pro acknowledges an on-field referee VAR error, and the committee is unanimous at red card and 1 match, or MLS Disciplinary Committee shall issue a 2-match or more suspension on incidents in which discipline warrants at least a 2-match suspension. So Danny will serve his 2-game suspensions during Orlando's games against Toronto and on May 22nd. Big game. And then,
especially for Toronto, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then on May 29th against the Metro Stars.
Oh, they're gonna drop 6 points. It's
going to be tough for them.
Beautiful. That would be a magical result.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Justice
I'm
is
all for
served.
that. I'm all for that. Good.
But I think, as I mentioned yesterday, there is an elephant in the room at that happened at the same time as that Nanny push, which was incredibly disgusting to see from our fans, which was beer cans being thrown onto the pitch. I know there's been things that have been said from the well, have I seen anything from Bravo District Elders? I don't think I have, but Screaming Eagles came out and condemned it. I know it was mentioned on Tried and True, and it shouldn't happen. We're better than that. Yeah. I know it's unfortunately happened just the once before, but that particular fan in question who did it has got a lifetime ban.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, it's absolutely fantastic that there's high severity with things like this, because when you think about it, you've got a crowd of players down there. Yes, I know we're frustrated. Orlando players are going down like they've been sniped left, right and centre. But we don't take the frustration out by throwing beer cans. We heckle them. Absolutely fine to heckle them in a sensible way as well, not in a racist or anything like that way, which we know has happened in another game, which you mentioned yesterday, Daniel.
Yes, not a great week for sort of the soccer community.
Not for the DC organization.
Very the sister club, or however you want to term it, Loudoun United had an incident where a racist fan made a monkey chant at a black player on a penalty kick, and I'm trying to see if there's only an announcement of them being made aware of the incident. So I guess an investigation is ongoing. But no, that's one of those frustrating things. Is there's so much good to the soccer community in the DC area, and unfortunately, all of that good work and goodwill sort of gets shot when these sorts of things happen. So I don't want to browbeat for 5 minutes, but it's just one of those things to knock it off, lifetime bans for these sort of things I think are appropriate, because none of that should be anywhere near the pitch, the soccer community, anything like that.
No. And as I mentioned before, it's one of those things where we just, as fans, I think we need to know that something has been done.
Yeah.
I don't want to see who's done it. I don't care who's done it, as long as I know that person or persons who've committed any sort of, I don't want to say crimes. Well, they are crimes at the end of the day. When you're throwing stuff at people and you hurling abuse in that sort of fashion. That's been taken care of. They've received their bans, and we can just move on from it. We don't want to have anything dragged out. We don't want to make martyrs out of these types of people. We just move on from it. So, like that, we're going to move on to what happened for me at the Orlando game, because that was a special day for me.
Fantastic.
So a good friend.
You made an appearance.
I did. I made an appearance at Audi Field without actually physically being there. Oh, it was beautiful. So a good friend, Jim, who kindly donated a cutout last year when you could get your cutout at the stadium. You could be in the stands without physically being there. So there was that. He did that last year. It was great to see. Ended up being on the streams and everything, so you could see me in the stands. That was absolutely insane. I was just like, "Look, Mum, I'm on TV." And then he managed to keep it for. Hopefully, I was going to get out there and pick it up and obviously bring it back to the UK. All that sort of thing. But he's kept it and planning on to take it the next time he was able to go to a game, which was against Orlando. He DM'd me on Twitter saying that he had a little surprise for me, and I see these pictures of him with the cutout on the metro in DC, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then before the game starts, and then during the game, just seeing me in loads of different places. I'm on one of these Lime electric scooters, next to a DC Statehood's sign. Then we see me at the tailgate, so with the Screaming Eagles, with Barra Brava and all them, loads of different people. Then Sarah Collassi makes an appearance. She takes over the cutout, get to the ground.
She gave you a media pass.
I was in the press rooms. It was brilliant. Got to meet Dave and Dev. Dave sent me a little message, which was absolutely amazing. I absolutely loved that to bits. It was such a sweet thing to see, but genuinely, it brought tears to me. I mean, it was probably because it was about 1:30 in the morning. Tiredness kicks in, and the emotions run high when you're a bit tired. But you know,
and you were trying to do the play-by-play.
I was trying to do play-by-play, and I'm seeing all this going on. And I'm like, I can't concentrate. I'm a man. I can't multitask.
Yeah.
And I'm saying I'm trying to do this, that, and the other. Watch a game.
And then she brought you to Burn Bomb.
And then so brought me over to Sam Lake, who's a fantastic guy. He's the guy who helps me out so much with the podcast behind the scenes. So I'm going to tip my hat off. My fake hats. I mean, my hat's down there. I can't quite grab it without making too much noise. But my DC cap is down there. Trust me. So I'm going to tip my hat off to Sam for all the help that he does. But he got me over to Steve Birnbaum. Sat in the stands with Steve, giving us some tactical advice. And I see in the background, Donny Pines is there. Loads of different players are just sat there. And it's just fantastic. And then after the game, it doesn't finish with the game. It carries on afterwards. And the press conference, sat in the DC, and where the players would get interviewed and where Anand gets interviewed, I was just like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. What an absolute trip that was. I just need to do that in person now.
Well done to everyone. That was very good.
Absolute huge applause to you guys who pulled that off. Kept it a secret. Because I know Jim was saying it's been planned for a little while, and the fact that you've been able to keep that a secret from me, and then just out of the blue, just come out with that, has just got me right in the feels there, properly in the feels. Even though we got beat, I felt like I was on such a high after that. It was just, I wanted to wake my wife up at 3:30, just go, I've got a video from Dave Johnson. He said hello. And then, she wouldn't have been happy. I would have been booted out of bed and kicked onto the sofa. So, yeah. So that was kind of a good thing for me with the Orlando game. It was just something else. So, anyway.
Yeah.
Enough about me. we've got a Philly game to talk about now.
We do.
This weekend.
Saturday?
Sunday.
Sunday. That's right.
Sunday, yes, because I get to spend another day out of work in a 3.5 hour sleep volume, so that's going to be fun. So we've got Philly Union on Sunday evening. That is Eastern time. That is 7:08. So it's an hour earlier than the Orlando game, so that's quite nice. So for me, that is at 12:08 a.m. So I might get to bed at a fairly reasonable hour. And for you, that is a 6:08 kickoff.
Yes.
Because you are central. Some things to run down in terms of head-to-head wise. In the games that we've had between each other, we've won 10, Philly have won 15, and we've tied 6.
Yep.
In the last 4 games, Philadelphia are unbeaten. That's both in MLS and in CONCACAF Champions League. In the last 3 games between us, we've been beaten twice and we've drawn once. And we've not won in the last 8 games against Philadelphia. So that's something that we need to turn around very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Their style of play, they tend to play a 4-4-2 diamond, but narrowly, rather than having 2 wide midfielders. They use their fullbacks as their wingers, with their defensive midfielder who drops in and realistically becomes a third centre-back. Their injury report, they've got a couple of players out. De Vries is out, Ilsinho's out, Kasper Schilbilko is questionable. So the decision on him is going to be made late. So it could be an interesting game for us this weekend, to say the least.
Like I said, this is me kind of getting back into my negative,
into your pessimism mode.
And very much so, because it's one of those things where I think, if we get Hamid back between the sticks, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where he's at in terms of returning, but it's going to be really difficult with Philadelphia's attacking. Now, they've had very close matches recently, but they did end up blanking Atlanta United in the first leg of the Champions League.
They did, yes.
Now, Atlanta has been dealing with its own turmoil this season, but they're currently sitting high up in the East. So, it's one of those things where it can be very dangerous, especially against DC United, where to a degree, I think if we work the wings and we maintain possession, we could absolutely do something. However, it's going to be that early goal that determines how this goes. If Philadelphia scores on us, they could very easily do what Orlando did and just sit back and kind of take on the onslaught. Because here's the thing, we are still dealing with a back 3 that is still very spotty. They have looked better in the last 1 or 2 games, but it is one of those things. It is a question mark, especially with Bedoya and Burke coming at them. So it is. It's one of those things. For I guess maybe to shed a little light on sort of how the community is looking at this from my One Football predictions tracker. 38 of 279 predictions, 38% of people believe DC United will win.
Okay, that's actually more than I thought.
Yeah, 47% saying Philadelphia will win, and 15% saying it will be a draw.
That's quite close then.
It's very close.
In all honesty, yeah.
It's like I said, it all depends on how this defense works as a unit and how I don't know. I guess we may have, depending on how things start, depending on how things look, how those wings end up playing this game. If they're going to be more of those attacking forward wings, or if they're going to be more in that wing back type of style. This game could go several different ways. I am still highly pessimistic, though, and I don't think DC comes away with points this weekend.
I'm so disappointed in you, Daniel. I'm so disappointed in you. I'm just going to quickly run through sort of Philadelphia's recent form, because I know I just said about they've not been beaten in the last four, so I'm going to switch over to my second screen over here, just so I can read. It's difficult to keep going back and forth. So they won their last game against the Metro Stars 1-0. So they got a good win there, but that was at Subaru Park, so they were playing at home. They then played New England Revolution before that, again at home, but they tied 1-0. Then they were away to Chicago Fire, which they won 2-0. Surprise, surprise. I think everyone's just beaten Chicago, the new Cincinnati of the league.
Yep.
To go alongside Cincinnati. I mean, Cincinnati haven't gone anywhere. They're still as bad as they were, despite signing Brenner, Lucho Costa, Jeff Cameron. Anyway, and then they played New York City or New Jersey City FC. They got beat by them though, and I guess I'll just all competitions. There we go. I don't understand why that's not just the default on when you look at a schedule. So before the Chicago game, they actually played Atlanta United at home and they tied 1-1.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've been in decent form, but when you look at their MLS season as a whole, they've played 6 games, they've won 2, lost 2, tied 2, they've scored 5, conceded 5. So they're not high scoring, they're not high conceding either. Yeah. It's going to be a tight game, but I think they're due to get beat against us. They've not been beating us in the last 8 games. Granted, they've kept 2 clean sheets in a row on the road. They've never kept 3 clean sheets in a row on the road, ever. So,
and to be honest, I think that changes this weekend.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's going to change. They're going to concede for me. I think they're going to concede. I'm going to be Mr. Positive on my prediction, but we will say them out loud. I know we locked them in yesterday, but we will confirm those choices in a short moment. But yeah, the fact that I've just seen about the fact that Kasper Shibilko is a questionable, I think that gives me a little bit more confidence that he is not there. Ilsinho being out, he's obviously a very big player for them. So 2 key players potentially being out. We've got players coming back. Like I said, Bill Hamida is potentially coming back for this game. Ariola's come back. He's building up his fitness. Canal should be back. Paredes, Yao. It's nice to see that players are coming back. Kamara's starting to build up a bit more fitness now. So it'll be interesting to see who starts at top for us this weekend. I'm quietly confident for this weekend. I think we can pull off an upset here, especially with the way we're playing. We just got to make sure that we control that midfield, because if they've got 4 players in the centre, they could really overload us. So we need to make sure we're controlling that possession and we're attacking them down the wings and we're making a nuisance of ourselves like we have done in previous games. We don't want another San Jose game now.
So I made a car allegory the other night when we did this, saying that I think with the vision that this team is putting together, I think what you've got with the Losada system is you have a frame that looks like a Ferrari.
Yes. Oh, yes.
But there are a mishmash of components. You've got maybe a Nissan CVT. You've got probably a Ford engine in there. You've maybe got some Brembo brakes, but they're probably mismatched. The camber is slightly off. There's just little things that just aren't coming together. But it looks like a Ferrari. This is a kit car with a Ferrari top. And you put it very nice. This is more like a Lancia.
It is at the moment, yes.
And so we are I wish it was more like their Stradale, but this is very much a makeshift type of operation. And yes, with players coming back, for sure that is going to look very good from a morale standpoint. But I think in a physical way, I don't think they're going to be there. To a degree, this team is going to have to keep building that up. And with the way that players are kind of coming in and out and things are kind of being put together and there's no real consistency, the system will thrive when things are consistent, when players get more time building up their fitness, working together, because there are things that are happening every time you see them get from, transition from the middle third to the attacking third. Things are looking really good, but it's that last little bit that they just do not have that cutting edge. Certain players that make just mental mistakes where they have a chance on goal, but they end up laying it off anyways. And so there are just too many inconsistencies to make me think that anything's going to really change this week. It's one thing putting up one against Chicago, and truthfully, it should have been more. But Philadelphia is a different kind of animal here, and they're not too far from us in the standings. To be fair, but I just think they're a team that's built more for the long term of this season, rather than DC United, and I think they're going to come away with a 2-0 victory. I hate to say it. I hate the words that are coming out of my mouth right now. But that is where I am very much practically at right now.
Yeah, I'm not angry.
You're just disappointed.
Yes, I'm just disappointed. And that's worse. There's nothing worse than a disappointed dad, is there?
It hurts hearing that in a British accent too, because that is, it's got a little bit of that tinge to it. It's like,
I'm
that
not
hurts
angry.
extra hard.
I'm just disappointed.
But hey, you have a very different scoreline than I do. I wanna hear you.
My optimism.
Yeah. I need to hear that right now.
Yes, because like I said, the team's coming back. We're getting the spine back together. It's like a good band. You need a good spine.
Yeah.
I don't know why. What? That's a crap analogy. What the hell was that about? I apologize to you guys out there. My analogies are awful. I need to learn better.
Also, the best way to lose is to win.
Yes, that was a comment that came out yesterday, which unfortunately we missed. Oh. It was beautiful because there was something that Hernan said in his one of his post-match press conferences about that it was a good way to lose, but for me, the best way to lose is to win your games, and that's it. Your best way to lose is to win.
So you have that belief. So
I do have the belief.
Give me the scoreline and give me the reason.
So I'm going for a 2-0 win. So the reason for that is, one, Bill comes back. We keep a clean sheet. Because Philadelphia, as I just said earlier on, they've only scored 5 goals so far this season in 6 games. They're not high scoring. And when you look at the majority of our games in terms of the XGs, we tend to keep our opponents down really low, usually below 1. So we're good at preventing chances, which is very weird to hear and to see, because from previous seasons, it's obviously been the other way around. We've got some good attacking players coming back. So you've got Areola back. Gressel for me has been fantastic. He's just not had a striker to finish his crosses off.
Yeah.
Kamara could be coming back. He scored a lovely goal against Columbus Crew, which he almost celebrated but decided not to. So he'll have a little bit of confidence. He didn't really get too much time against Orlando. He got the graveyard shift.
Yeah.
So and he did have one particular chance, which all he needed to do was just get a little toe onto it, and that would have been an equaliser. But when you think about it, he only just come on. So yes, you need to be taking your chances whenever you get them. It's just difficult when you've been given that kind of little time to get yourself warmed up on the game. Yes, you can do your warms up and down the side of the pitch and whatnot, but that's not the same. So he could potentially start. Kamani Smith might be starting. We'll see who gets that. I mean, Perez might even get the nod again because he's been fantastic this season. Yeah. He could do some real damage, I think, with the way he plays. The close control is fantastic with his history of futsal. Could be a real key player. And to think that we picked him up from the waiver draft when he got released at the end of the last season. Insane.
Yeah.
He is the diamond in the rough for me so far this season. I just think the fact that we're getting the players back, it just fills me with a bit more confidence. It feels like the fact that we've been playing this style of play, and we've been playing some pretty good football, to say, with the lack of resources that we've had, we're getting more. It means players can get rested a lot more. We've still got the 5 sub rule, which I think I would love for it to become a permanent fixture. I think we're going to start coming good over the next few games. Why not start right now against Philadelphia? As MLS wants to put it, our main rivals, which isn't the case. MLS, come on, get a grip. Get a grip. Yeah. They're not our rivals. Well, they are our rivals. They're just not our main rivals.
They're not fetch. Stop making fetch happen.
Yeah. Rivalry happens from history.
Yes.
Not always locality. Which, to be honest, it does. But history means a lot. Yeah. And when you're playing the energy drinks, who don't play in the place that they're called.
They play in Monza.
Yes. I mean, we likened the New Jersey City and the New Jersey Red Bull situation to the Milan derbies. We were talking about rivalries yesterday in our silence on our stream. And yeah, it was because they're playing in the same stadium pretty much. Yeah. It is like they might as well just do it. Just share the ground, become the new Milan, but Milan juniors, and become Monza. It's the Monza derby of MLS.
Yes.
So
what?
You know,
that's such a weird.
it's such a bizarre comparison, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
If Milan played in the same way that I'm going to use New York. If you're watching on Twitter, Twitch, or YouTube, you'll see what I'm doing, but I'm doing the air commas. You know what I mean? It's bizarre. So yeah, it is the Monza derby of MLS.
Which to a degree, I would love that if there was such a thing as a Monza derby. Oh, you would catch a derby on a Saturday and Grand Prix on a Sunday, and that would be the intersection of my two sporting loves is soccer and Formula One. So yeah. that would be fantastic. But
it would.
Yeah, no, that's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah. So New York, just sort yourselves out. Whichever one. Move to New York if you're the energy drinks and actually play in the right place, or if you're New Jersey City FC, just build yourself a stadium. I know I was speaking to Barney, who does the UK NYCFC account, and we're talking about obviously the stadiums and the fact that they're having to play at the energy drink arena for just under half of their games this season, and he's just saying they want to have a stadium in the 5 boroughs because it's New York City, not New York State.
Yep.
And that's where it becomes a lot more difficult because there's so much red tape. And he was saying to get like a stadium in most places, it costs a couple $100 million to get one built.
Yeah.
If they want to get it done in New York City, it's going to cost like $500-600 million. So it's going to cost a lot more. And when you think how much revenue they're going to have to generate from player sales just to even allow that to happen, they would have to sell a lot, and that's not good for the club.
You'd need about 11 David Villas for that.
I mean, to be fair, you could just have two Kylian Mbappe's, but
You could.
because that's the world we live in at the moment. That's for another show. The weird and wonderful world of transfer fees right now, which I think is starting to die down a little bit because of the pandemic and the fact that there's not much money rolling around right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's for another episode.
We gotta have a Gammon Tam episode at some point.
Oh no, that's confusing. We tried that once, didn't we?
We got a little bit into it. Yeah.
I think that was your first episode, wasn't it? When
Probably.
you joined the show.
It's a great one to start on.
Oh, Gammon Tam. Oh, Garber Bucks. Jeez.
Yep.
If you ever want to get confused, try reading the rules behind Gammon Tam because it's mind-boggling.
It is Major League Accounting.
Oh, the MLA.
Yes.
Oh. Imagine if that ever became a thing, Major League Accounting. How boring would that be?
I think with the right sort of commentary,
with Dave Johnson. It's in the check. It's in the check.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, at a certain point, why not? Why not?
No, I couldn't think of anything worse. It's like watching golf.
I mean,
I told you, last night about my golfing experience.
Yeah.
Loved playing it. Couldn't stand watching it. When you're watching a person walk around, hitting a ball every so often, that's not entertainment.
It's a nightmare.
It's if you want to fall asleep, that's what you'd watch.
Yeah.
But cricket's more entertaining than that.
Ooh, we're kind of getting off track on a little bit.
We are a little bit, yeah.
When I worked at a butcher shop in my early DC days, at the guy who ran the shop, he was born in Colchester, actually.
Oh, right, okay.
England, and lived in Australia for a bit. Big cricket fan. So those are fun times.
Yes, I know it's not really a thing in the United States, which is a little bit disappointing. I think it could be quite a good thing over there because you've got your rounders.
Well, here's something that I think when I was in England and I actually went to a cricket match. One of the coolest things I saw there wasn't actually on the field, but it was a person with kind of like it's like a carrying thing.
Yes,
about
I know where you're going with this.
Plastic, cups of beer.
Yeah,
you could just get one of those. So I think if you introduce the drinking aspect to American, this becomes the next great like blue collar draw.
Oh, absolutely. American. Let's just go off on a little tangent here. So cricket.
Yeah.
I know it's not soccer, but why not? So cricket itself, if you're watching or listening and you don't know what it is, it's a sport where you throw a really, really hard ball at each other in a particular fashion, and you've got this wooden bat, and you hit it, and if you hit it across the rope on the edge of the pitch, if it bounces, you get 4 runs. If you hit it straight over without it bouncing, you get 6. Yeah. And the aim of the game is to get as many what you call runs as you possibly can, because you run between what's called the stumps, so on the wicket. If you hit the stumps, then you're out. In essence, that's a simple version. But there's a format called T20, which is 20 overs. So an over is You bowl six balls at the opponent, and that's your over. In traditional cricket, you have a 50 over match, which is an all day game, and sometimes you get what's called a day night game, which is quite cool because it's under the floodlights and you get a little bit more atmosphere because the ball will change how it goes through the air as it gets later in the night. Or you got test match cricket, which is normally over 5 days.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. And you have 2 innings per team, so you'll have your innings. If you're batting, then you bowl, then you bat, and then you bowl. And the aim of the game is to outscore the opponent. But T20 is all about hitting that ball as hard as you can to get as many runs as you can in these 20 overs. Traditionally, in test match, you'll get about 3 or 4 runs per over, if you're lucky. 50 overs, 6 runs an over. 6 runs an over. T20, about 10 or 12 runs an over. So you're getting a lot of action for your money.
Riveting.
Yes, absolutely riveting. The atmosphere is a lot better because you know you're gonna get a lot of action, short space of time, beers are flowing, fancy dresses happening.
Yes,
you've got pyrotechnics. It's just the next level.
Very cool. Yeah.
So that, I think, if they brought that over to the United States, I think that would work incredibly well, and we could see something happen there. But that's cricket, and this is a soccer podcast, so back to soccer. Don't know how we're going to get back onto this, so let's.
So I think it's a sort of housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
And I just have one thing.
Go for it.
Is a really good video interview on MLS with the new president of business operations, Danita Johnson. Talks about, how diversity and inclusion will create kind of like a winning culture with the team on and off the pitch. This is, a really good show because typically the front office has always been sort of seen as kind of like this ivory tower where it's not, they do have community efforts, but you never really see any of the top people sort of speaking about how they're going to make the community impact. And so having Danita out there really championing the club and the community is really good to see. It's a shift in the culture and how this club is sort of putting itself out there. So I think it's really good. And they also mentioned the Rose Room Collective, which is the supporters group for or by people of color, for people of color. So this is, she kind of lays it out with what the club is doing. And I applaud that because, that is something that is going to eventually, I think, overrule or, drown out some of the, darker things that were, sort of like the unsightly things that happened with this team. So I think having more of that will be overall a very good thing for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've seen a lot more from the front office over this season so far. Yeah. I think Danita's going to be doing some amazing stuff for the club. I've only ever heard and seen really great things from her so far. Yep. So I've got no arguments. I think, is she the first female president of a professional soccer team?
I believe
in USA?
In overall professional, I believe second, but first in MLS.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that she is really getting out there is fantastic because for the longest time I've always kind of seen, the front office people as they're just kind of there and they're not, it's been mostly lip service, but this is very kind of real actions that are being taken, especially with, more Spanish language interviews and just a greater outreach to the community, I think is just great.
Definitely. And we've also got to thank Claudia Pagan for doing those Spanish language interviews and Moises Linares with the Spanish commentary as well. So it's just getting so much better. The reach is getting greater. I hope I'm doing my bit with a region of international community. So I think we're all in a really great place right now. So
Yeah.
fingers crossed that it continues and we keep seeing some awesome stuff happening out at the club. Speaking of awesome stuff, let's wrap the show up. We've got those score predictions locked in of you, for some bizarre reason, have gone for the 2-0 defeat. I don't know why you would do that. And I've gone for the right result, which is a 2-0 win. So I will take my 3 points right now. And I will move ahead of you in the league.
In all likelihood, we will probably end up with no points. It'll be
a tie. More than likely, yeah. It'll be a 0-0 draw, and the Losada reign of no 0-0s will be over.
Yeah.
That's I genuinely I can't see that ever happening.
No, this system is not made for that. So
no, not at all.
Yeah.
So let's wrap things up. Daniel, speaking of your awesome stuff, where can people find you on socials?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at SDakotaSoccer. I cover a whole lot of stuff, or my interests go all over the place, and so I have a blog that hasn't been updated in a while, but there's a treasure trove of content on it. It's called Soccer Made Simple. It's on my website, which is Daniel of DC. And there you will find a whole bunch of articles about, not just like the sort of ins and outs of the tactical side of soccer, but also the business side and the culture side, because, those are all important things that come together and, makes soccer the special thing that it is. Because as much as the corporate billionaire sort of overlords start kind of getting in there, there's still the community aspect that keeps the sport so special.
No, definitely. No, thank you, Daniel, for obviously coming back on for the second night in a row for the season 3 episode 11 remake.
Thank you so much for having me. This was just as fun the second time. No complaints at all.
No, not at all. And for me, if you're following me on Twitter, thank you very much. And same with Facebook and Instagram. But if you're not, you can find me at DC United Kingdom on Twitter. On Facebook and Instagram, it's at DC United Kingdom FC. If you want some lovely merch, which you will hopefully see in the next few weeks, behind me, you will see a lovely, lovely DC UK flag just up on the wall, just around. I'm trying to do it backwards, around this area here. I will then have some other things on there. There is shirts, hoodies, mugs, even a pint glass if you want one of those. Just hit the merchandise link in the description below, or in the show notes if you're listening to it on your podcaster. If you want to come and join us in the DC UK group, though, feel free to. There's no charge for it. We do have some great chats in the run-up to the matches and during the games as well. There's quite a few of us in there, so do come and join us. That is in the membership link just next to the merchandise link, so feel free to do that. Hopefully we'll see you there very, very soon. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've missed, but I can't think off the top of my head, so I'm not going to rabble on for too much. So once more, thank you, Daniel, for coming on today's show. And for you guys for tuning in live, thank you very much. If you're listening after the fact, again, thank you very much. Good luck to DC United this week against Philadelphia Union in our final game of our 3 home game stretch. So until next time, Vamos United.